Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced a crackdown this week on leakers. It's an issue that continues to plague the White House.
And I have this warning for would-be leakers: don't do it. For the past several months, we've already made changes and are seriously ramping up our efforts.
Sessions says leak investigations have tripled since he took office, but the president had recently said he wasn't doing enough. CBS News security analyst and former assistant director of the FBI, Ron Hosko, is in Washington. So, Ron, as we mentioned, this announcement was made after the president was critical of the attorney general. Do you have a thought on whether or not this news conference, this announcement, was more about warning leakers or perhaps appeasing the president?
You know, my sense, Elaine, is that it's a little bit of both. There has been this recent wave of leaks. Some of it seems to be White House backbiting by staffers, shots back and forth. But some of it, there is a concern, and I think a real concern that the leaks of sensitive information, like the transcript of the president's conversations with both the Mexican and the Australian leader, those are inappropriate. They are designed to be hurtful, and they do raise concerns about will foreign leaders be candid? Will this chill conversations when you find your conversations publicly outed?
One thing that is different, in the past, presidents have been reluctant to at least publicly appear to be applying political pressure on the Department of Justice. That's not the case here. What do you think about that?
You know, I think it is clearly the president's frustration with Jeff Sessions and Jeff Sessions recusing himself from the Russia investigation. I think the president is plainly dissatisfied with that, unhappy with it, and has surprisingly spoken out in a very critical way. I say surprising because it does, if you look at the other parts of what Jeff Sessions has said and done, he is clearly very supportive of this president's policies and has spoken on those issues, whether it's violent crime, MS-13/immigration. Sessions has been clearly supportive of the president's agenda when it comes to DOJ's role in that agenda. So I think it's been a bit of a conflict that the president would be so critical of his attorney general, who has been very supportive of his policies.
Ron, you alluded to this a moment ago, but President Trump's predecessor, President Obama, was very aggressive in pursuing leak investigations. How do you see this administration in comparison? Are there parallels? Are there differences?
Well, I think we're going to have to give it a little bit of time. Clearly, this press conference last week potentially portends a more aggressive DOJ. And I think one of the things that you're alluding to is after those Stuxnet leaks and other leaks, DOJ was using their subpoena power to look at a couple of journalists, a couple of folks in the media, to examine their records and their activities, because very often that's the flip side of these leaks. They're leaked to someone, they're leaked to the media. And so it will remain to be seen if Jeff Sessions' DOJ rolls back to change of procedures by the Holder administration in DOJ to see if he starts to go more aggressively after the records of members of the media, to see if they can prove cases on those leakers coming in, whether it's within the Department of Justice, i.e. the FBI, NSA, or members of Congress who are leaking this information out to the media. It remains to be seen. We'll have to look in 6 months or 9 months and see who's been charged, what tools have been employed to catch people.
When you look at the intelligence community, Ron, how challenging can it be to find people who are leaking and to try and prevent that from happening?
Yeah, frankly, I think it can be very challenging. I know that the components, the intelligence community, are really looking at this insider threat and looking at their technical infrastructure to see who is downloading information inappropriately, who are those people who don't have a need to know that seem to be trying to access sensitive information, and then what are they doing with it. So there are determined efforts. But this is not the easiest thing in a really a high-tech environment that we live in today. The information that can be taken routinely, potentially dropped onto a thumb drive or recorded in other ways. This can be a complicated matter. Certainly not as easy as what we recently saw in Georgia with the charges of an NSA contractor, where it looks like to be a pretty straight line to that person and to their motive. It can be harder than that. So to me, it's a positive thing when the FBI adds resources. It's a positive thing when the DOJ adds resources and say, hey, we're going to prosecute. Now we'll have to wait and see what are the results.
All right, Ron Hosko in Washington for us. Ron, thanks.
Mm-hmm.